A very good evening, dear friends. Today I'll analyze the poem A Prayer for My Daughter by W.B. Yeats. Although in my previous lectures I have always asserted that whenever one has to read a poem, the poem is to be read there by virtue of the black marks on the blank paper. So, whatever are the black inked expressions, one has to interpret and decipher the meanings out of those black marks. But for this particular poem, we really have to connect with the poet, his milieu, his race, and the autobiographical details. So, this poem is about the poet W.B. Yeats, who has written this particular poem just after the birth of his daughter. That is, just a few weeks after the birth of his daughter. So, there is an approaching storm he is worried about, and the little child, his little daughter, is sleeping in the garden. So, he has got two notions. The first one, the approaching storm, and another one, the approaching stormy life of the little child. So one storm is there at the very external level, and the second storm is there in the mind of the poet. That storm is based on the life which the poet has lived, and he knows that how difficult it is for a female to live a life where there are so many difficult times in the male dominated or a masculine society. So he is trying to connect those very measures, and he has got good lot of apprehensions, doubts, and expectations there for his little child. He says, "Once more the storm is howling, and half hid under the girdle hood and coverlid my child sleeps on." He says that the little child is sleeping in the garden, but the storm is howling and is approaching to the place where he is living. There is no obstacle but Grigory's wood and one bare hill whereby the haystack and the roof leveling wood bread on the Atlantic can be stayed. He says that otherwise the storm has no obstruction to face, but there is a hilly area near the Grigory Wood which can obstruct the storm and the rainfall over there, and the devastation of the storm can be minimized or can be stopped over there. But otherwise, that storm can just destroy each and everything coming on its way. And for half an hour, I have walked and prayed because of the great gloom that is in my mind. So, you can see here, now he is connecting the psychological disturbance which he had there in his mind, there with the disturbance outside. So, the outside disturbance is the external storm which is approaching, and the inner disturbance is of the approaching life of this little child. In the second paragraph, he says, "I have walked and prayed for this young child an hour, and heard the sea wind scream upon the tower and under the arches of the bridge, and scream in the elms above the flooded stream." He says that I have been walking for half an hour, and I have seen so many different pictures of the life by virtue of my memories. And now, when the sea is approaching so high, I fear that this storm may destroy each and everything. Now, this storm is not something which has to be taken up. They're at the very external or at the very literal way. This storm is basically the storm of the life which is ahead of the little child. Now he is basically more worried about the huge mammoth life which lies ahead in front of the little child. Further, he says, imagining in excited reverie, and the future years had come dancing to a frenzied drum, and out of the murderous innocence of the sea. That means that the sea at the very face appears to be very innocent and quiet, but it may turn out to be violent and disturbing by the time the storm gets over it, and it also changes into the huge wavy thing. So similar is the life of the little child who he expects to be sleeping here in a very quiet and carefree manner. But by that time, the little child will grow up and get into the maturity. She will find that there are so many difficult things she has to face. There are so many different difficult uh, hurdles, problems, and situations she has to manage on her own. So he has got all his doubts. Would she be able to manage? Would she be beauty conscious? Would she be intelligent, sensible? So different doubts, apprehension, mixed emotions are there in his mind, and he has got lot of expectations from the little one. In the third paragraph, he puts in his expectations of the little from the little child. May she be granted beauty and yet not beauty to make a stranger's eye distraught. Now he says that he wants the little child to be beautiful when she grows up into a mature, into a young lady. He wants her to be beautiful, of course, as a very natural expectation of a parent. For hers before a looking glass, for such being made beautiful overmuch. But excess of everything is bad. He does not wish his daughter to have beauty beyond the normal limit, beyond the normal expectations. He has got his fear that if the daughter is extremely beautiful, she'll be beauty conscious and she'll be short of sensibility and intelligence. She'll be more bothered about her looks while looking herself there in the mirror. So he says that that kind of only beauty in excess is of no use, and he does not wish his daughter to have the beauty only. Consider beauty as sufficient and lose natural kindness and maybe the heart traveling intimacy that chooses right and never find a friend. Now he says that he wishes that his daughter may have a blend of both the natural kindness, the natural humility, the natural humble attitude, along with the natural beauty she has. She may not only be beautiful, she must have a balanced persona of beauty with brain, sensibility, intelligence, and intellect, where she may be using her wisdom there to turn out and analyze the thing as right or wrong, and she may not get away from good friends. She may not be all alone because of her high-headedness or because of her ego of being very beautiful. She must have a, a balanced kind of outlook where she enjoys the company of good friends also. Then the fourth paragraph, he takes two instances. One is of Helen of Troy and the second one is of Aphrodite. He says, Helen being chosen found life flat and dull and later had much trouble from a fool. Now he talks about the Helen of Troy who had married the Prince of Troy, and after that there was a huge trouble between the two families because she took her decision to marry the Prince of Troy, and after that both the families or both the kingdoms were uh, at loggerheads and they had fought a great war which resulted into Trojan War. He said that one simple wrong decision may turn up into a huge problem, therefore the society, family, and the place where we are living. So one example is of Helen of Troy, who had taken a wrong decision of marrying uh, Prince of Troy, and after that the huge problem took place and there was a Trojan War. While that great queen that rose out of the spray, being fatherless, could have her way. Now he is talking about Aphrodite, who was the daughter of the sea, and she had also married a wrong person. That is, there was a wrong choice. She chose to marry a bandy-legged smith for man. That is, a person who was almost a handicap, who was not uh, a good personality person and was by profession also a very lowly placed person. She had all sort of choice and all sort of uh, wisdom there to choose anybody there in her life, but she took a wrong decision of marrying that bandy legged blacksmith. And after that, what has happened? That she has also devastated her life, and eventually she had to leave her husband, therefore living a life full of disturbance, confusion, and problems. So, two wrong decisions he has talked about, and out of those two wrong decisions, he says that my daughter must learn the lesson of living a life which is balanced and which is correct and which has got a corrective order of good upbringing. Now he says that generally these beautiful ladies are fed on a crazy salad with their meat, whereby the horn of plenty is undone. He says that the meat, otherwise, which is quite proteinaceous and rich in nutrients, is nullified. The nutrient values of that meat is nullified when they try to blend it with a crazy salad. Now, crazy salad is the stupidity of taking wrong decisions. So, metaphorically, it refers to the stupidity which generally is performed by the beautiful ladies when they do not take the right decision. So the nutrient value here refers to the upbringing of the parents also gets nullified if the wrong decision is taken up. So this is the critical appreciation for the 4 paragraphs. So I'll follow up the things for the other 6 paragraph later on in the second video clip. So wait for the second video clip. We'll connect again. Goodbye for now.